chain reactions. I can't talk to you about everything. Just this one change could bring human civilization crawling to a halt. Catastrophic. Not have enough food. We don't have the ability, you can grow like kale and spinach and tomatoes inside, but the heavy calorie crops like wheat and barley and oats, they got to be grown outside. We are dependent upon the weather. We're talking about the possibility in the very near term of not being able to grow enough food for human civilization. So this is not rated G. This is not a joke. I don't want to scare the shit out of you, but you really need to know this to make the right decisions. So what did I do after I learned all this? I reduced my carbon footprint, and I talked to everyone I could, and what the responses I got is that the truth is inconvenient. Al Gore was absolutely right. I got a lot of deflection when I said reduce your carbon footprint. People say, oh, I recycle. It's like, well, you recycle, but you still got a 25-ton carbon footprint. It's like your recycling doesn't take away from that. So it's sort of they don't want to think about what they're consuming. People want to tune out, and nobody wants to say, okay, I'm willing to sacrifice for the human race to continue. So phase 4, depression. My awareness is damn. This is going to get a lot worse. Civilization is heading toward collapse in my lifetime, and when I think of my kids, right? But I can't quit on them. So, acceptance, right? I'm living in California, and I see the drought, I see Lake Mead, Lake Powell, I see the water disappearing, and I'm 60, I don't want to have to move when I'm 75. Right? That would be a pain in the ass. So I'm 60 years old, I got in my car, I drove to Madison, because I'm a progressive. The Great Lakes has water. I came here because there's water. It's like, Madison has a reputation for being good for progressives. So I drove to Madison, I rented a room, and then I, just drove around and checked around. Wisconsin has a great benefit for people who are 60 years old or over. Free classes at UW. So I went looking around for places that got a UW campus. And, Stevens Point's got a specialty in natural resources. The real estate's like less than half the cost of Madison. So I showed up in Stevens Point, and I became, after I got my house all situated, I said, I'm going to become a community resilience advocate. Partly for selfish reasons. The shit's gonna hit the fan. I don't want, if I have enough food in my house and my neighbor doesn't, I'm not gonna count on them starving to death. I'm gonna count on them coming to my house to take my food away. So this individual prepper idea doesn't work for me. I want to be part of a resilient community. So that's, so meeting my new community. I've had a lot of conversations in the less than a year. I came here in May, lots of conversations. I've talked to people, I've talked to government officials. I've been in email communication with the entire school board. I met with Mayor Weiss in his office. I talked to Katrina here. Melissa's been, she's been a witness to some of my agitation. Conversation. I've talked to some climate activists. And I've talked to a lot of UWSP faculty, mostly in behavioral science. And when I talk to them, they say about the way, my view, what I see, they're like, you're absolutely right. However, they don't want to be the person who brings the bad news, right? They're like, they got their jobs there, their security, their families. This is, we have to sort of tell people, bring people this inconvenient truth, and they don't want to be the one who does it. So after talking, I feel, there's a lot of opportunity. So I'm going to do a brief trip into climate math. Okay, this is important for you guys to understand. Global carbon emissions are 40 billion tons a year. If you divide that by 8 billion people, that's 5 tons per person. The climate doctors, the IPCC, are telling us we need to reduce that to about 2.5 tons per person by 2030. We ain't getting there. Okay, so we're not doing what the doctor's been telling us, and the IPCC has been out since 1988, since James Hansen went in front of Congress. This is their 6th report. The doctor's been telling us that we need to stop smoking, and we're not smoking. Now, the message they're giving us now is we're not going to tell you again, you're going to die. We need to change. So let's contrast that with American emissions. 2.5 tons is what the global doctors are telling us we need to get to. American emissions officially are about 16 tons per person, which is about 6 to 7 times the doctor's recommendation. But there's a little bit of propaganda in that, because when a lot of people like to blame China. Well, we import stuff from China. China is manufacturing, so we're assigning to China. If they manufacture that big screen TV you got in your kitchen, we're charging China with the emissions. So if we actually, were to fully load our emissions, we're probably 10 times in the United States higher than what the doctor's saying the global average needs to be. So we don't like that as Americans. We don't want someone telling us that we're, that's bad global citizens. We want to beat our chests and think we're great. So let's pivot to community action possibilities. So one is climate illiteracy, as defined earlier, is obvious. We are not changing. The doctor's telling us we're dying, and we're not changing. So if we were climate literate, we would be doing the right thing. Half of American adults don't know that humans cause climate change. This is Yale climate surveys. So, and in Portage County, that percentage is a little higher, almost half. So as part of my investigation, it's like, what do we teach in public schools? So this has been, Melissa and Mary have been witness to this a little bit. So what the public schools are telling, the officials have told me, is we teach everything that the state, the regulatory authorities allow. Which, okay, great. But what's being taught is nowhere near the definition of climate literacy. So if we have an ignorant population and our local schools are not allowed to teach the truth, then we as a community need to say, where is the truth supposed to be taught? Okay, so that's kind of where I come in. I'd like to teach the truth. I think I could teach a 10-year-old to become climate literate. But, so right now we've got this vacuum. And nobody's raising their hand saying, Harry Truman, great Democrat. The buck stops here. No one's raising their hands claiming responsibility to educate the public about climate. And this is a national issue. So I'm talking to the people in Stevens Point. I'm letting them know there's nothing specifically wrong here in Stevens Point. There's something wrong in the whole country. And my strategy is to try to address it in one community. I can't fix the whole country, but if we can fix one community and set an example, we could spread that message to other communities. There's no law that says we can't do that. So we have to create it. So I want to ask a question here. Do we want to be part of a climate literate community? Does anybody here not want to be part of a climate literate community? How about, can you raise your hand if you do want to be part of a climate literate community? Okay, so we all want that. Okay, thank you very much. You just use your voice. That was powerful. So I'm going to give you an example of how climate literacy might work in the community. I went to a city council meeting where I met Mary, and they were talking about the definition of family for residential purposes, okay? So in that discussion, if they had climate literacy present, they would have said, hey, the average Wisconsin home takes 6.8 tons of CO2 to power in a year. If the rules, to Stephen's point, has a limit, 2 people per house, so that equates to 3.4 tons per person. If we were able to say, let 4 unrelated people live in a house, we can reduce the carbon footprint per person. So that would be intelligence. And this is an issue that, we have a housing crisis. We have an affordable housing crisis if we allowed more people to live in a house. And oh, by the way, if we're stubborn and don't increase it, guess what? You're going to have a lot of rich people, climate refugees from other places, going to come and buy our houses, and you're going to have a lot of non-Wisconsin people like me coming in. So if you want to keep people like me out, the smart strategy is to fill these houses up. Because when the pressure comes, right, this is going to be a national security issue. You're not going to be able to keep people out. So my advice, if you want to keep people like me out, is to fill up the houses with people from Wisconsin first. Thank you for laughing. I didn't realize that was going to be a funny line. So right now, so what I would ask is, right now there's no requirement for government decisions to be put through a climate literate filter, okay? There's no requirement for someone on the city council to be climate literate. There is no requirement for someone on the school board to be climate literate. So how do we make climate literate decisions if no one knows, right? If I talk to the school board and I say, hey, we need to educate kids about climate, they don't have to know. I mean, if they don't understand the issue or the problem, I'm negotiating with people who don't grasp why I'm so adamant about wanting education. They don't know what the problem is. So we have to ask for it, and thank you. You guys did it. You all raised your hands. So that gives me some ammo. So one of the things I want, we're getting toward the end, is we need to grieve. All right? Al Gore was right. What's going on with climate is an inconvenient truth. The most inconvenient truth is that you have the power to do what you just did today. You all raised your hands and said, we want to have a climate literate community. That's power. Because now, we have a democratic, we have a democratic mayor, we have a democratic assembly person, and we have a democratic president of the school board. We can say that 40 people all said we want to be a climate literate community. So you do have the power. We need to let go of this idea that our voices don't mean anything. The people you have the most leverage with are the Democratic politicians who come into this room, right? Not Joe Biden, not Tammy Baldwin, but Mike Wiesa, Katrina, Meg Earler. These are people who care what you think about them. So you have leverage to say to them, please participate in creating a climate literate community. So, so I also want to say, the Gen Z people who are here in the front row, this is the strongest demographic in the Democratic Party in terms of percentage of vote. These people are choosing a sustainable Earth, not a disposable Earth. Okay, they want that contrast. They're proud. They need it to survive. Okay, we have the Lancet, which is a medical. Let me check my time here.
Medical journal.
Okay, we're getting close to the end. Says that 50% of kids 16 to 25 believe that we're doomed because we're not dealing with climate change, and that's wrong. They deserve hope. I grew up as a kid. I didn't have this hanging over my head. We owe them, and they delivered. Young people voted. You guys are all happy. We got a double-digit win. Young people are your strongest constituent. So that, I think, is most of my presentation. That's a review of climate literacy. And here's a little meme for you. So I'm not sure if people grasp the whole message of this meme. So that's a meteor that's coming to Earth to destroy the dinosaurs. You know, the dinosaurs went extinct from a major collision with a meteor. And so that's where we are as humans. We're heading toward the collapse of human civilization. I don't want to, you know, that's true. And we can't worry, like, so it's just a stupid meme. They're worried about the economy. It's just, that's what people are thinking, that the economy comes before survival of the species. And that ain't right, okay? That's, people have to get their arms around it. So thank you very much. Here.
Oh, thank you. You listed several progressive people in the city who would support climate change, your ideas. Did you contact the chancellor at the university?
So I have not talked to the chancellor. I'm not sure the chancellor would, at this point, give me the time of day. Maybe I'm working in that direction. I've talked to anybody. I've talked to 6 professors at UW.
Yeah, good, good.
So I absolutely would go for that.
I can see, not that I have any power here, but I can see a collaboration using university facilities and maybe some people from the College of Natural Resources and involve the Board of Education, or the Board of Education.
Okay.
Maybe that would be they're used to doing things in collaboration.
Okay, so one of the things I want people to be careful about is a lot of people that I've talked to in the city, they point to UW. UW and the city don't share the same org chart, okay? So if I talk to Mike Wiesa and he says, go to the people at UW, it's like, well, Mike, you're the one who needs the knowledge from UW to make a decision. The city council, it doesn't do the city any good if I go to UW. If the city council is climate illiterate, they have to hire climate literate people. They need to make a deal. We need Harry Truman, the buck stops somewhere. We need the names. Someone, so these people at UW that I talk to, they're not volunteering to give the city information. They got their jobs, they got their lives. So if there is expertise at UW, but we need an agreement. We can't just point